Welcome to the Jazz Piano School podcast, where we have one mission. That is to help as many interested people around the world learn and improve at jazz piano by providing structured and organized jazz piano education. I'm your host, as always, Brendan Lowe, and thank you so much for joining me. To download the practice materials for this episode, you can go to jazzpianoschool.com/podcast 92. Now, in this episode, we're going to be going over the basics of minor 2-5-1 harmony. This is going to be episode number 92. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. So, with the minor 2-5-1 basics, this is going to be more or less kind of talking about the theory. But for our minor 2-5-1s, if we take a minor 2-5-1, for example, the first chord, a minor 7 flat 5 chord. Now, this chord, okay, is going to be the 2 chord in our minor 7 flat 5. Now, there's so much harmony behind minor harmony theory because there's lots of different types of minor scales, and out of those different types of scales come lots of chords. Now, when we're talking about major diatonic harmony, we're using one scale, major scale. Right? C major scale, for example. Now, from this scale, we build different chords using the chord tones from that scale. Our 1 chord, our 2 chord, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1 again, okay? So there's 7 diatonic chords that come from the 1 major scale. When we get into minor harmony, there's more than one minor scale, right? So the 3 different types of minor scales we have is going to be natural minor, which is going to take on the flat 3, flat 6, flat 7, and 1, okay? We also have melodic minor, and we have harmonic minor, right? So 3 different types of minor scales, okay? So how they differ, I said it before, but the natural minor has the flat 3rd, flat 6, flat 7. Harmonic minor is going to have the flat 3rd, flat 6, natural 7. So we only have flat 3 and flat 6 in that scale. Melodic minor only has flat 3. Now, because we have 3 different scales, essentially we have 3 different sets of diatonic chords that link to each of the scales. So that means essentially we have 21 different chords, okay? Now, I'm not going to be getting into all of that today because that's a lot of minor harmony theory. But I am going to go over the different chords we use for a minor 2-5-1. So the first chord we're going to use is going to be our minor 7 flat 5 chord. So 1, 3, flat 5, and 7, all right? Now, the scale associated with this minor 7 flat 5 chord is going to be coming from our natural minor scale. So what does that mean exactly? Well, if I play my C natural minor scale, that's going to fit or link with my minor 7 flat 5 chord. Okay? So just to move up one step, if this is my chord from my natural minor 7 chord, actually, this may get a little confusing. Here's my 1 chord. Here would be my 2 chord. So from my C natural minor, my minor 2-5-7 chord, that's where it's coming from. So essentially, all you really need to know is that for improvisational purposes, we're going to be using a C natural minor scale. Now, in order to think about this more clearly or relate it to our minor 7 flat 5, essentially, we're going to be playing that C natural minor scale, again with the flat 3 and the flat 6, but we're going to be starting it from D and ending it on D. So I'm playing the same scale, but I'm just going to start on the 2nd degree of the scale and end again on the 2nd degree of the scale. So here's the original scale starting from C. I'm going to now start it from D. Right? So this fits and adds all of our chord tones from our minor 7 flat 5. Okay? So we're using the C natural minor starting from D to D. Okay? Now again, this is the basics of how I want you to envision this. This is a very basic level, okay? There's lots of names to this, right? Just like in diatonic harmony, there's Ionian, Dorian, things like that. I'm not going to get into all that today because I want to keep this as simple as possible. But in order to start you out, this is how I want you to think about it. We're using C natural minor starting on the 2 and ending on the 2. So C natural minor starting on the 2. So now to improvise, I use that scale, right? And again, I'm taking our chord tone strategy, so I want to focus on chord tones on the downbeats with the linking individual notes in between on the other beats, right? So that is all you should know really at this point about that. And I'm going to talk about that later. Now, when we get to the 5 chord, our 5 dominant chord is going to take on certain extensions. Okay, now our 5 dominant chord is going to be associated with the C harmonic minor scale, which is essentially just the flat 3 and just the flat 6. Okay, so my dominant 7 chord, and essentially, again, it's just a dominant 7 chord, but we need to add in certain extensions to enable it to be a minor sound. Okay, if that makes sense. If I just play this, it's going to sound, it can be coming from like a major or a minor. But the harmonic minor scale we're going to use, again, is our C harmonic scale, but we're going to start it on the 5th degree and go to the 5th degree, and that's how it's going to link to our chord. Sorry. Right? So with that, that creates our, as you can see, we get certain extensions or characteristics from that scale. Immediately, you should know we're going up to this note here, the A flat, which creates a flat 9 sound over our dominant chord. We also move up to the flat 13 here, which gives us another characteristic. And then that's it. The rest of it's more of a Mixolydian scale, right? But we do have the flat 9. We have this jump here to the 3rd. Gives it a very distinguishable sound. Flat 13. And then up to the 1. Right? So I'll talk about voicing that in a second. But that is the scale that we would use to improvise over this chord. Right? Then finally, we resolve our minor 2-5-1 going to a minor major 7 chord. All right, so again, you might be confused, like what are the types of chords exactly in a minor 2-5-1? The first one is a minor 7 flat 5. The second one is going to be a dominant 7, but like I just played the scale, it's going to be a dominant 7 with a flat 9 and flat 13. Okay, those extensions are very important to the chord because they link up with that with the harmonic minor scale, right? Our C harmonic minor scale, starting from the G to the G. And the reason we start from G to G is because it matches the root of the chord, right? Of our 5 chord. Okay, then finally, so that's a dominant 7, flat 9, flat 13. You need to have that over your dominant chord in a minor 2-5-1 to make it part of the minor 2-5-1. So you always want to have flat 9, flat 13 in your chord to essentially grab the minor sound. You always need that. I'll talk about some of that in a second. Our last chord is going to be our minor major 7 chord. Okay? And so again, you may think, we can use C minor 7. Well, technically, you can use a minor 7 to end with, but more of a true minor 2-5-1 is going to end with a minor major chord, just like you see in Autumn Leaves, minor major 7, right? Now, again, like I said before, this is coming from a melodic minor scale. The reason we link chords and scales together is because they are harmoniously connected by harmony. You can build chords from scales, and you can also get scales from chords. Okay, kind of like letters and words. I mean, you can build words with letters, and you can also take letters out of words as well. They connect interchangeably almost in a certain way to use them back and forth when learning a language, right? And that's how chords and scales connect. So here's our melodic minor, C melodic minor. Now you'll notice our 1 chord is C, so we don't have to move the scale, to the 2 or to the 5. We can just start it from the 1. And we get the characteristic sound of that chord. So we take our chord tones, 1, 5, 3, and natural 7, and this gives us our 1 sound. And again, the scale associated is going to be our minor major. So when I'm soloing, again, I focus on my chord tones, but I use the other notes within the scale. Whoops, my note's sticking there on my keyboard. Okay, so melodic minor, that's the sound you get from melodic minor. It's kind of this haunting, eerie minor sound. That's what that major 7 adds to it. Very beautiful, right? Characteristic sound. So we have a full minor 2-5-1 now. So we have our minor 7 flat 5, right? Going to our dominant 7. Now remember, we want the flat 9 and the flat 13 in there and to make it a true minor sound. Here's what it sounds without it. Now this still works, right? I'm not saying it doesn't, but adding in these certain extensions, which I'll show you in a second, really kind of adds to the sound. Whoops, sorry. I added a major third down there. So then we finally have our minor major sound. Now, voicing wise, like this is where the kind of scale comes into play. If I'm soloing, absolutely I can just play a dominant 7 chord and that will work. I'm not implying any of the extensions here. I would only imply the extensions in my solo. Right? So it's definitely possible to leave those out. Now for my minor 7 flat 5, again, what I'm playing here is just an inversion, okay? I don't want to get into too much of voicings now, but I do want to give you just one set of voicings here. Now from my voicing here, this is just first inversion of my minor 7 flat 5, D minor 7 flat 5 chord. In order to imply some of the sounds, right, the characteristic sounds of our harmonic minor scale, we want that flat 9 and flat 13 because those stand out. So from here, our voicing is going to change to this. Now, as you hear, we now have the flat 9 and flat 13 in our voicing, okay? So this is a rootless, dominant flat 9, flat 13 chord. So here we do have the root in here. And I'll get into that, probably not this episode, but later on. Moving to a rootless, moving to finally, again, another rootless minor major 7. So this is kind of the typical A-B voicings, if you will, or rootless voicings of a minor 7 flat 5 chord. Now, even though the first chord doesn't contain that, you can sub this out for the 9 here, the flat 9 in your minor 7 flat 5 chord. Now a lot of people you'll see this, you'll be like, Brendan, why aren't you playing the natural 9? The natural 9 is available, okay? But the reason the natural 9 is used more as an extension is because the major third in your key center. And we're playing in the minor key of C. Now the minor key of C, the minor sound that creates minor is the third, right? So when you throw that E natural in there, you're actually getting more of a major sound. Now, is that okay? Yes, absolutely, because it's serving as more of a minor, a minor extension here, right? To add that natural 9 sound, right? You'll hear this voicing a lot instead of the minor third. And now people kind of really confuse this, right? Well, I never used the flat 9. I've always been taught to use the natural 9. That's completely okay. I mean, that's a different type of sound, but you should know the flat 9 is the basic roots of minor 7 harmony because it's pulling from your natural minor scale, right? And it stays consistent throughout all 3 chords. So you want to know when you do play that natural 9, you're kind of negating the minor sound of C minor because it's the major third of C, right? It creates a major sound. But is it okay to play? Absolutely. It's a great sound and I use it all the time when soloing. So I may play this voicing and have the natural 9 on my D minor 7 voicing. I love that sound, right? So that's a fantastic sound to use, and you can absolutely use it all the time. You just want to know how to use both. Okay, essentially that's what I would try and relate to the message. Now again, on our rootless here, we'd simply use our harmonic minor. And then to our melodic minor scale, right over our minor major 7. And again, my rootless voicing here is going to be 3, 5, 7, natural 9 on top. Okay, so for minor 7 harmony, this is what I'm thinking. Here's my basic inversion here. Harmonic minor. Now again, there's certain characteristics you can change about this as well. Using the sharp 9, even though you're using the sharp 9 is getting away from the harmonic sound, but it works as well. So these are kind of again like progressions or alternate tools you can use. More of an altered sound, having the sharp 9 in there instead of just the harmonic sound. So they're tools. Like you can use that tool or the other tool. It's up to you, right? But if I want to stick to the harmonic sound, I would skip the sharp 9 and just have flat 9, 3, and then continue upward, okay? So, and then again, melodic minor, right? Again, in the essential components of this are going to be that major 7, right? The only difference between Dorian and melodic minor is one note. So you would think you'd want to focus on really targeting that one note so you can hear the difference between the two. Otherwise, there's not really any difference. So if there's one note that's different, focus on that one note, right? You know? So that is the basics of minor 7 harmony. Minor 7 of minor harmony, minor 2, 5, 1 harmony. So you can go to jazzpianoschool.com/podcast92 to get the printouts of the scales that connect with the chords, and you'll be able to see the voicings as well, structured out and written, so that you can download those and practice them in all keys. The voicings will just be in C, but then obviously you can learn the knowledge, and then you can practice playing it through the keys and then improvising with the scale, targeting chord tones. So that will be super helpful. Now, in the next episode, I'll get into more extensions, two-hand voicings, uses of the extensions, and in more improvisational techniques with different types of tools, like I was talking about the altered or using the natural 9, and even some uses of different extensions over the melodic minor sound that you can use to really create these kind of out sounds, you know, that are going to sound just completely kind of new to you possibly, or maybe you're used to these types of sounds, but to get you away from kind of the standard bebop approach style of minor harmony. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, go to jazzpianoschool.com/podcast92 to download the practice materials. And in the next episode, I will go over that stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, happy practicing.